Okay, so welcome everybody to our annual general meeting of the Special Interest Group Acute Pain from ISP. We announced our meeting on the ISP Connect site, which we think that not everybody is already using it, but we also announced it on our Twitter account. But we are also recording this meeting so we can share it with our other members who are not available or are not present right now. We do this meeting after the Congress of ISP in Amsterdam because we heard of many members who are not able to travel to the Congress, and we hoped that we could meet some more members today in this meeting. So we will see if that will work. We shared with you the agenda. I hope everybody has seen the agenda. So we're just starting with that. So another welcome to everybody again, and especially also to Angelo from ISP, who will be present also. Thank you. You can see our board. We are all present. I'm the chair of the SIG Acute Pain. You can see Esther Pogetsky-Zahn, who is the treasurer, and there's Felicia Cox, who is our secretary. So let's give us a little bit of an update what we have done the last about 1.5 years. We have been very, Felicia, I'm not sure if you have the minutes of the last meeting ready. Do you want to discuss these? No?
No, I did ask IASP, and I've also asked our previous secretary if she could send them to me, but alas, I have not received any. So essentially, we didn't have an AGM last year, and the previous AGM was held in person. Yes, 3 years ago. So nothing, but I think it's really nice because we have a new team. Ryan is our chair, and we're blessed to have Esther continuing. And I think this is one of the things that we're going to be discussing later on is about succession planning, because we are a relatively large SIG. We have 214 members, and we only have 3 post holders. And so we've got some vacancies, and it'd be great actually to discuss some of the opportunities around that. But when we compare ourselves with some of the other SIGs, so the neuropathic pain SIG, so NEUP SIG, and also, pain in intellectual disabilities, etc., we actually have very few post holders. So it's a lot of work for us, but we are very enthusiastic, and we're delighted to have both Jonathan and also Shani, joining us today. And obviously Ruth, who we have very strong connections with, because Ruth is also a position holder, not only within IS, but also has a very great interest in acute pain, and also the use of tools to help us manage some of the work that we do. I was going to say intercontinentally, but we are truly intercontinental. So we're delighted that we have enthusiasts here today. And, kudos to Angelo, for supporting us by setting up this meeting along with Greg, and also for being here in person. I think what time is it where you are, Angelo?
It's not too bad. It's actually 8 a.m.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, we appreciate the early morning start.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yes, and I think this is one of our strong points, is that we do have really strong links with the Pain Registry SIG, for instance, with which Ruth is a position holder. And it's great actually, because a lot of the work that we do, Rianne is an epidemiologist by background, is very tied in with that. So welcome everybody today.
Yeah, well, that's a very nice bridge, Felicia, because I was about to talk also about our collaboration with the SIG registries, because in 2023 we held a common webinar about together with the Pain Registry SIG and our SIG about acute pain, where we had 4 speakers speaking about data collection through pain registries and acute pain, and also classifications, and also patient-reported outcomes. So that was a really success. We had a nice number of participants in that webinar. So I think that would be a good example of our collaboration, Ruth. I hope you think so too, and we may do so another time in the future, right?
Exactly. I think it was a good webinar, even if I say so myself. And I hope we can plan another joint webinar. That was one of the things I wanted to suggest.
Yeah, well, very well. Thank you, Ruth. Well, we had some more webinars, and that was because we planned a satellite meeting along with the AFIC conference in Budapest in this year. And we noticed, it was last year, and we noticed that not many people were able to travel to Budapest. So we made a decision there that we would turn our satellite meeting into 3 webinars, and we have held them last year and this year, and they were about horizon scanning in postoperative pain management, where we had some organizational issues about acute pain services and transitional pain services. We had a webinar about improving postoperative pain outcomes, where the patient-reported outcomes were discussed from the IMI Pain Care project. We had a session about the prospects outcomes, and we had something about physical outcomes in relation to acute pain management. And we also had a 3rd webinar in May this year, I believe, and it was about integrating approaches to acute and procedural pain, where we had some speakers about opioids, perioperative opioids, and personalized pathways. And all webinars had a great number of participants, so we were very happy with that. And well, of course, we would like to ask our members about new items or topics that we could run other webinars on. So we will come back to that later in our work streams, I think. So I would like to continue now with the rest of the agenda. And the next point is about the feedback from our recent ISP meeting in Amsterdam. Esther, could you say something about that?
So you mean the Acute Pain SIG satellite meeting, which was held on the 5th of August. And this was the day before ISP started officially. And all the 6 that planned meetings, satellites, were placed on this day. So that was a very busy day for ISP. Lots of things were going on, hands-on workshops, and lots of SIG meetings, including ours. We had a room for 100 people, and this room was at the end, I don't know, Jonathan, you were there, and Shania.
Standing room only.
Standing remotely, yes. I mean, it was really crowded. We were so impressed about the attendances. So we had pre-registration for 86 attendees, and then people came and registered on site. So we think it was more than 130 or so. We don't have the exact number, but it looked like that number. So this was very, very successful from that side. Content-wise, it was another success, I would say. It was about role of biomarkers for acute and transition from acute and chronic pain. And we had excellent speakers. I was really impressed that all agreed to come. They all came. They all did their talks there. And I would like just to emphasize some highlights. So we had in between a break in the first part, we had a couple of speakers talking about predictors of acute and acute to chronic pain. the start was with me by presenting some published and unpublished data related to blood proteomics and acute pain, presenting some new data there. Luda Diachenko from Canada presented genetic factors for the prediction and development of chronic pain. These studies she mainly based her work on or talk on is just published in British Journal of Anesthesiology. If you want to look that up, maybe we can discuss that, Flick and Rianne, in one of the we are planning to do some paper presentations. So this could be one for the whole community. Christian Petersen from Denmark talked about the prediction role of QST for the development of chronic post-surgical pain. Very interesting data for a specific topic, very intriguing. Then Jan Vollert, a statistician working with many people in the pain field, gave an overview about machine learning methods. That was very cool. Yeah, even me as a non-statistician was able to follow what's going on and some of the pitfalls, and still I'm already a little bit into machine learning and artificial intelligence. It was not boring and it was really interesting. So the second part was starting with Kathleen Sluka. She is the main scientific lead of the HEAL initiative on a big trial related to identifying predictors for the development of chronic pain after surgery. She presented the design of the study and where they are at the moment. We discussed intensely what are the possible outcomes and what this could mean for the future pain prediction and treatment. Laura Wandner from NIH presented data on outcome assessment. That is a very big topic. In case we had one of the webinars about that, you just briefly talked about that, Rihanna. So here it was even more about this from the NIH side, and that was very interesting. And Irene Tracy talked about neuroimaging as a biomarker for prognostication of acute to chronic pain. Another issue that was not taken up by any of the other talks. So it was a very colorful and intriguing meeting with lots of interesting points. We will keep follow up this issue, I think, because prediction and prevention of chronic pain after surgery is one of our main aims in our acute pain SIG. It is in our strategy as a main topic. So we will have more in the future, but this was already very cool and successful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Esther. That was a great overview of this session. And I saw in the chat from Angelo that he has counted 110 participants according to the registration.
Yeah.
But I think we had a little bit more because I think some more people popped in without registration. But at least this is very good. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Angelo. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Well, the next point on our agenda, Felicia, is for you, talking about the ISP Connect and the social media metrics. Can you elaborate on that?
Thanks very much, Rianne. Today I was looking at our ISP Connect, and I'm not particularly convinced about the let's say interactivity and the acceptance and recognition by our members, and I'm talking about IS members broadly, about the functionality. So I was looking at some of the other non-SIG members, some of our just general IS members that are not members of the Acute Pain SIG, and they have like 75 interactions. And I think our leading interactor is Jonathan, who's present here today. And I think that was driven particularly by hosting the posters, the winning posters, and so drove a bit of movement, shall I say, a bit of traffic towards those. And I particularly like the fact that some other person who one that you had not actually uploaded yourself uploaded her own poster, which I thought was very impressive. But I have to say there's a lot of work to be done, and I have had a look back at some of the IASP newsletters recently, and IASP Connect features very low down on the list of topics. And I'm just wondering, Angelo, whether we might be able to convince some messaging around actually the functionality of IASP, perhaps do a little bit of a video about how you can post a new subject or a new thread, for instance, because I find that I tend to just respond to threads and rather than actually generate them myself. It might be actually useful today because I know that Shani's been on to IASP Connect. But Jill, how did you find out about the meeting today? I'm sorry, you're eating. Sorry.
Sorry, I was late.
Yeah, that's right.
I found it out from the email.
Oh, you did?
So
So
the email that came from ISP Connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting, because what was interesting to me was Esther, Cheyenne, and I had a meeting last night, and Esther popped a note on ISP Connect, and I only received it today, some 15 hours later, to be honest. So I received it at 11 a.m. and I think we met last night,
Yeah, but I sent, but I had problems yesterday. So I sent it out this morning, but it was much earlier than 11, Flick. So
it would be 10
it
o'clock
was
your time.
delayed. Yeah.
So it's not immediate, the messaging, but I did notice that Jane Quinlan sent her apologies this morning in response to Esther's email. So currently, IASP have, as I'd mentioned, 214 members. It says 215 in IASP Connect, but one of those is an IASP employee. But I think that our general following on the Twitter, for instance, formerly known as Twitter, is 1,391. And for the benefit of Jonathan and Shania, I feel that I run the Twitter account, that I'm in direct competition with the Noob SIG, because they've always been, quite good. And they still only have 1,200 members. So we have superseded them. It's been very much, quid pro quo over the years, and we've been very close, but now we have exceeded our number. I'd like to just mention about, the use of social media and how a lot of people have moved from, like as Ruth has mentioned, she's moved from Twitter or X and perhaps is no longer using that. But it might be just a topic for conversation later on when we're talking about some of our vacancies. Perhaps we need some assistance with our social media as well. So this is another topic for us to mention. So what else would you like me to talk about, Cheyenne, at the moment?
Well, maybe Angelo, a question. Oh, my light's gone off. Sorry. I'm not moving too much. Angelo, I would just like to ask you what the strategy of ISP is to enhancing the use of ISP Connect, because we noticed that we do not have that much members now on this EGM, which may be due to the fact that we announced it on ISP Connect. How do we get people more involved?
No, I appreciate the question. And we launched IASP Connect in late April, early May to all the SIGs and their members. And we were obviously right before Congress, sort of. So the promotion has been, and the promoting engagement has been something that we did a little bit of, but certainly now that Congress is over, we're going to be focused more on. The key to IASP Connect being successful is folks communicating with one another. So I think it's wonderful that you posted the meeting information on IASP Connect. The only caveat with that is there's always a delay. So anything that's posted typically on, say, a Tuesday would be, the information would be generated in what they call a digest, and that digest is received then the following day by all of the SIG members. So there is a delay.
So just one day.
Yeah, there is a delay in getting that notification out, because anyone that posts, if someone were to post, say, or if there were 5 members that posted 5 different things, then the next day the SIG members would get one digest with all 5 posts in it. So it collects everything and then pushes that notification out the next day. But I think it's great that you're using it and talking about it, and I think that's the best way to get folks and members specifically engaging with one another and engaging with the SIG officers or the SIG leaders. One of the things that we've done since Congress is we recorded, to Felicia's point, you were reading my mind, because we recorded a demo video for which we're editing right now. I'd like to send it out hopefully next week to all SIG members, just giving them some, it's like 3 minutes long, giving them some instructions on how to post, how to create a new post, how to post to the resource library, how to change your settings. If receiving a digest every day is too much, you could do it once a week. So we're going to be sending that out to all SIG members. And then obviously in that email, we'll also include some tips and some directions for folks. So
Great.
I think we have some work to do, but it's something that's a goal for us. Our next step is we'd like to have it open to all IASP members, and the early career network. So we plan on expanding the number of communities in there, but we started with just the SIGs.
Okay. Oh, great. Well, thank you very much for this information. Felicia.
Just one question, Angelo. Thanks very much for that, because I think that will be really useful. What proportion of IS members are actually just SIG members? Or should I ask what proportion of IS members are non-SIG members? Because there is an additional cost associated with that.
Yes.
Thank you.
I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I have pulled this before, and I want to say it's about 50%, maybe just over 50%. We have about 6,500 members right now, which has gone up considerably, probably since I pulled the numbers due to World Congress. But I want to say we have about 2,600 members that also belong to a SIG. So it's around 50%, give or take.
Thanks very much. That's very useful.
Okay. I think that we have talked enough about ISP Connect. Is that okay for you? Maybe Esther, you could elaborate a little bit on the financial status of our SIG, as long as that is known.
Yeah, so I just got from Angelo, thank you so much, the actual numbers with income and net asset, and at the end, our current money, so to say. So it's without what we spent, as I understood you, Angelo, this year on the ISP SIG meeting, which in fact seems like it was already equal with 80 participants, meaning that we rather have gained some money than lost some money from this SIG meeting, meaning that we have around 100, it's in dollars, Angelo, $100 US in total. But This is what I got as a message, and Rianne and I participated in the meeting that was held as ISP for the SIG leaderships, that this is under the constriction of process that cannot be at the moment visualized correctly from the past years. So it is uncertain, yeah, if this is the real money we can use or we have, so to say. This is what I understood from what they told us.
But
In
you say
addition,
$100.
yeah, 100 to be very exact, 106 points. No, what is it?
I think it's
108,000.
1,000.
$106,000,
not dollars.
713.
Thousand.
Excuse me. So
Thank you.
around
$100 not going to get you very
100,000.
far.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, there is a problem with that, yeah, because in the past years when we did SIG meetings, what they told us, it was not reduced from our set what we had. So it is a little bit, it looks a little bit like, and this is for all SIGs. It's not just for Ruth, it's for your SIG, but your SIG is much younger than ours. Ours is 25 years old. Yeah. So I remember, because I was a founding member of the SIG, that we had a huge amount of money when we started, yeah, from 2 or 3 pharma companies. Yeah. At that time, it was a different time where we were able to get this kind of an unrestricted grant. But it is not that the money reduced likewise what we used during the last years. So this is what I got. This is what we have now. Flick and Rianne have it now too. And we will keep you updated on the process of this, which will be hopefully resolved during the next year. Flick.
Yeah, thanks very much, Esther. We've had a few problems with accounting. This is for the benefit of Jonathan, Shania, and for Jill, related to income and expenditure, and we're always, quite delayed. So just going forward, if we host an IS event, let's say a SIG refresher course, etc., then there are certain costs associated with this, not only the standing cost of, the day delegate rate, etc., room hire, audiovisual, but also a cost towards a payment towards IASP to offset the cost of organizing the event, etc. And that includes everything related to venue hire, day delegate rate, audio visual, etc., and recording of events. So just bear that in mind. Webinars are relatively cheap. I'm looking at Angelo here. They are a very useful way for us to engage with our membership. And we often get many hundreds of people, particularly during lockdown. I think for one, we had 700
That's
people
right.
attend.
Yep.
And it just shows you that there is a need, but actually, although we pay a membership fee, so there needs to be some member benefit, for our members, but also that we do have a duty. I'm thinking about next year and the global year theme. Pain in education in lower and middle income countries, is that often these situations, we get a lot of people from the Indian subcontinent, from Pakistan, from Iran, Turkey, etc., that don't have access for funds to travel, particularly to attend congresses. So I think we also have a duty to provide education and content for them.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Flick. And there are some other ads we got, Rianne, from this meeting. So what we should not do is to hold all the money and wait for whatever comes and have it for the next 20 years safe in our pocket. Yeah. So we should spend it somehow, to spend it for reasons that we think are very relevant to the aspect we want to deliver. But of course, we need to have some spared money, because when we do, for example, such SIG meetings in the future, we need to have hold money if something goes weird. So we need, if nobody's coming, we have to pay something. And if we would not have any money, we could not plan such meetings, because ISP's risk to be taken would be too high if everybody would do that, and then it wouldn't work. Yeah,
that's
hopefully
right.
I have explained it in the right way. So we need some money to sit there to save us for letting us do what we want to do, but we should show that we do something with our money. So there should be regular spending and gaining from the SIG, which we in fact do, because we do all these meetings, and we did every year a meeting, not only in the years ISP was holding a meeting. So that is somehow already being very active.
Yeah, that's thank you very
Okay,
much.
enough about money.
Yeah. Anybody have questions about that? No. Well, thank you very much.
I was just about to say, Rian, I'd like to spend some money, but we can discuss this later.
Yes, it will come up later. Thank you very much, Felicia, because you already told us about the committee vacancies, and we will come back to that later on. So now I would like to start with the second part of our agenda, where we first would like to start with the strategy for 2025 and beyond, of course, because, well, everybody knows that our mission is to advance and promote the understanding of mechanism, assessment, prevention, and management of acute pain. So all our activities should hold within that mission. Well, we have some ideas already developing, and we would like to have some ideas from our members in which way we could elaborate activities. I think that we would like to start just with what we have already started on, and I shall give a very short introduction about that. It is about a task force that we are composing. That was an idea that actually developed during the ISP Congress in Amsterdam about the use of extended opioids. And the SIG Acute Pain has agreed to develop recommendations against the use of extended release opioid for acute pain. And we asked Jonathan to take the lead in composing the task force to make those recommendations. Jonathan, would you be so kind to tell us something more about that?
Yeah, I'm very happy to talk to that. So at the Prediction and Prevention of Chronic Pain and Long-Term Opioid Consumption After Surgery session at ISSP, it was clear the members were very supportive of avoiding or minimizing the use of extended release opioids for acute pain. There have been position statements released in other countries like the UK and Australia, and where I'm based. And we've found particular success with those position statements where we've been able to halve the use of extended release opioids, just having a strong association push that amongst its members and making people aware of the issue. And we find that having something similar at an international level will be particularly valuable for countries that don't have those same type of local organizations, and to provide additional support for those that do. So having chatted to people on the ground and within the executive committee, we felt we could probably put together our own either position statement or recommendations against the use of extended release opioids for acute pain, but using our own membership and expert opinion from around the world. So we're currently putting in a task force that represents all the different regions of the world, including multidisciplinary nurses, anaesthetists, surgeons, pharmacists. And we're at the stage of reaching out to see who's interested, so that we can put that guidance document together.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Maybe some aspects, Jonathan. I totally appreciate that, as we discussed in Amsterdam, some of the problems, and this is why we need wide recognition of different countries. And I think we do not have that at the moment, even not in Europe. And probably we should think about that is that for example, in Germany, we don't have a problem with extended release opioids after surgery. We have, Winfried Meissner has some data that show that this is not yet here a similar problem than in Canada or the US, for example. And there are other data pointing out toward this. So it might be a problem for those having these, having not these problem, and thinking about discussing first in that task force if a worldwide recommendation is really appropriate. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we think
I
so,
totally agree, Esther.
Yeah. And if we think that this is appropriate, we need to consider all views on that. Yeah. Because we know that this is probably not a problem of the extended released opioids, but it's a problem of the use, how to use it, and how to control the use in the countries. So it's not to forbid the content,
Yeah.
the use, but it's rather suggestion how to reduce the use in those countries that have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that we need to
May I
discuss in the
interject?
task force. Yeah.
Ruth.
Yeah, I'll interject. Yeah, Esther, I totally agree with you. I think that there's some considerations where actually quite the reverse. It might be an idea if you use extended, and on top of that use short acting. And I think we should present both viewpoints.
Yep.
And not negate this totally. We have initial data showing that actually patients who receive opioids do better after surgery.
Yep.
I know it's very, very difficult to analyze across populations, but I would not go down this route of negating opioids, opioid free, or etc. etc.
Yep.
So I really endorse what you're saying.
Yeah, and I can give that back to you, Ruth, what you just said. And we know, in fact, from European countries already that in Romania, for example, they have even not morphine in hospitals. That is what I got recently. They have only the not strong, but only the tramadol, for example. Yeah. So they have nothing else in the hospital. Yeah. So they have a totally different problem than we have by saying we want to avoid controlled release opioids. And this is not what I would support, in fact. Yeah.
But that is why we need a comprehensive composition of the task force that we represent all ideas, and we can make a layered recommendation. I see another hand from Gillian.
So Ruth, you are kindly invited to participate in these task force with your vision and you or Winfried. I think that would be great to put these data in here. Yeah.
I would totally endorse this, because we must remember that there are many countries that use these guidelines that are applicable in some countries, but they're difficult to generalize in other countries.
Exactly.
And we really have to be careful about this, because people say, oh, this is recommended in the US and this is recommended in Australia, so this is how we should follow. And so gladly.
And this can be the aim of the task force.
Exactly.
For
that is
figuring exactly out what is appropriate and what is relevant for each country. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of discussion in the total world about this. So I really endorse the idea of having a position statement on this topic, but we do need a lot of people representing all opinions, really. Gillian, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering,
something?
Because I mean, I might be behind the curve on this, but if the international statement says that long-term opioids aren't appropriate for acute pain, What do we define as a problem? Because Esther was saying that not everybody has a problem with this. I mean, people aren't saying don't use opioids; they're just saying don't use long-acting ones. And if anything,
yeah, you're
if
right.
If anything comes from IASP, surely it is an international world type thing. So yeah, you've got to have representation from all countries, but by the very nature of it being IASP, it means that it's going to be a world approach rather than a European approach or whatever.
Yeah, but what we are saying, Gillian, is that I would not endorse the UK recommendations. And what Ruth is probably saying is the same, that we need to be careful to endorse what others are doing. And this needs a statement, the general statement that not every country is similar, and that so my statement here would be, for example, that controlled released opioids are not dangerous, but an uncareful use of controlled released opioids, might be might be dangerous. So we need some definitions, what is appropriate and why we need opioids and why we need controlled released opioids after surgery. But we need to say in addition what and why needs to be avoided.
Yeah, and what is necessary to use them safely. Exactly.
Yeah. And I'll just add, like, the fact that we're having this discussion shows you the importance of that guidance.
Exactly.
So I completely agree that this is worthy of discussion, and that can be the point of the task force.
Exactly.
So
yeah, so just a challenge for the task force would be to see how to have representative people from different countries.
Exactly.
Because the active people tend to be from the high resource countries. And it's a challenge to engage people from middle income and low income countries, where use of opioids is very scarce.
Yes, but we have several members of these countries, I believe, as I checked the member list. And Jonathan, you are currently looking at all the representation in the task force, right?
Yeah, I actually think there's a lot of synergy here, because as you've mentioned, the 2025 Global Year is about research education in low and middle income settings. So this is a great way for us to identify our members in those settings, get them more engaged to a topic that they might be interested in, or at least get us engaged with them for next year, so that when we're promoting that theme, we have members in those settings.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also another aim that we would like to do this year, to improve engagement, not only from the Eurocentric countries, but also from low and middle income settings. Right. Thank you. Is this enough about this topic? I can see, yeah. Because then, Felicia, you also have a very nice idea that you would like to elaborate on for the SIG.
This is where my salesmanship comes in. So during lockdown, while the rest of you were working, I was working at home, shielding, and as part of the international consensus guidance on opioids, led by Nicholas Levy, Jane Quinlan, etc., Patrice Forget, Nicholas had suggested to me via Twitter that maybe one task that I could undertake would be to generate a patient information leaflet or undertake lead a project. So I established a joint project between the British Pain Society and the Irish Pain Society, because I found out that not only everybody was very enthused from the British Pain Society, but actually there were concurrent projects going on within Ireland. So we managed to join forces, and we have developed a patient information leaflet. This leaflet has been translated into Welsh, which is a requirement for UK language, but also during her spare time, this leaflet has also been organised to be translated into the Dutch language by Ryan. And the next language that we plan to translate this into is German. And so this leaflet is actually already in use in Australia, etc. We don't allow it to be what should we say, amended at all, any of the content to be amended, but it is endorsed by the Faculty of Pain Medicine of the UK and Ireland and many different societies. And what I think was really the value of this was we had people with lived experience, but also engagement at a very high level from Royal College of Physicians and also Royal College of Occupational Therapists. We have a lot of Royal Colleges in the UK, so there is a Royal College for almost everything. And what has really been, I don't know, one of the learning points for me was actually about when you're developing information for people with lived experience and also their carers, is that the language that you use. So particularly the physios and the psychologists are saying to me, don't use the word exercise. It's very negative. Use the word you need to move more often. So it was really, really a very strong learning experience. And what was great was we had very small workforces. So for instance, Jill worked with Jane Quinlan, and they produced the content, and everybody produced content in small groups, interdisciplinary small groups, and then we brought it all together, and then we just adjusted the entire thing. So my next plan, which has been set for me by Professor Levy, is to generate a patient information leaflet just solely for patients presenting to the accident and emergency department, or those coming in for short stay hospitalization for perhaps overnight treatment. And what we have learnt recently is that patients going to the accident and emergency department are often prescribed opioids, given no guidance about duration of treatment, inappropriate dosing, for instance. So I think really the international consensus guidance, like it or not, Esther, where we actually try and promote the significant reduction in modified release opioids. That's good for acute pain. But what I would like to propose is that because this is a global phenomenon, you know, that managing pain after surgery, that we might use some of our funds to actually facilitate translation into other languages and to make it localized. So it's at the moment, it's very general. It's fine for Western Europe. It's fine for Australasia, New Zealand, Canada, so those high resource countries, but actually less appropriate for the lower and middle income countries. So the cost is not significant. We did all of this with no funding whatsoever, and I managed to get some funding from the British Pain Society just solely for the design. No one was paid, and we have it in a variety of different languages, and I can post it. I will pop the link in the chat. It comes in a PDF that's printer ready, so you can download it and you can arrange for a local printer to do it. It comes in a PDF version where it's A4 one page per page. So if you're in clinic, you can download it yourself and you can print it off. Now, it is quite a lengthy document. The next document related to A&E presentation or short stay will be much neater. But actually, I would propose, I can make a formal proposal to the SIG that they should consider funding the translation into other languages and actually making this resource available for lower and middle income countries. And I don't know what the general consensus is. I can see a bit of nodding. But...
Yes, and I see a hand of Ruth. Would you like to react?
Thanks, Rianne. Flick, I think this is a wonderful idea. From our findings, education is extremely important part of quality. I would suggest that possibly consider to reconcile between I mean, I'm sure that you've obviously spent a great deal of time preparing this, but I would suggest that maybe perhaps we could consider a next step and reconcile between this leaflet and the recommendations that Jonathan is going to lead in his task force, because as we've just been saying, it may be necessary to make some sort of adaptations with time. And also another thing is there might be some sort of need for cultural adaptations. I think there may sometimes be difficulties in literal translations of educational materials, and so I totally endorse the idea of education for patients, also for staff. And sometimes when staff are get information, they are able to pass it on to the patients. So great idea. I suggest to reconcile it with the guidelines that we're discussing to develop. And next step would be cultural adaptation. So I would possibly hold your horses before lots and lots of translations are being carried out right now.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Excellent idea. So I will liaise with Jonathan and his extended task force going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, Ruth, I may have a little bit a different suggestion, because I just, so what Flick has at the moment to translate is there. Or Flick, this is a leaflet. What we do not have at the moment is the task force recommendation. And in my experience, and I have lots of experiences with Delphi processing and something like that, it's usually a year, and this is very optimistic, before we have something. Cultural adaptation needs lots of work. You know this better than everybody here. So I would still say, for those countries that would like to use that at the moment, with a restriction that if we have something that is in addition to that, and as you are saying, timely adapted to what we have in 2 years, then we use the what Flick just said, involve these aspects. So my suggestion is, at the moment, who wants to translate, this takes 2 weeks, but to develop something new takes 2 years. To use this now and then start in 2 years the next approach.
Adjusting, yeah.
I see what you mean, Esther, but on the other hand, you know that once something is out there and practices change, it will be really very difficult to make some sort of adaptations, and sometimes it's there's pros and cons with what you're saying.
I know,
and
I'm just going to weigh in here, Ruth, and just say, sorry, I'm just going to say that
and opioid phobia is
just a minute.
is such an issue that I don't want to make it, that I really would be wary of making it even more extensive than it is.
Yeah, it's not opioid-phobic. It's very general, but
yeah,
what it does do is builds on the whole
self-management,
consensus guidance. It's about pre-assessment is really key, and actually that prehabilitation, so what happens before surgery, is really key, and actually patients understanding through the surgery, so about setting expectations in the pre-assessment clinic. How long am I going to be in hospital for? What am I expected to do on post-operative day 1? What should I be doing at home? It's about safe stepping down of all analgesic medicines, and actually recognizing that it's not only opioids, it's about non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, about paracetamol. So I would just say maybe have another look with fresh eyes at the leaflet, which I popped in the chat, and then maybe come back, and then I'd be very happy to meet with you one-on-one. Possibly,
That was what
definitely.
I just suggested.
Mm-hmm.
Just wanted to suggest that we all check this leaflet with regard to our concerns. If we don't think this is worth doing at the moment, we don't. But if we think, but with a restriction that this will be changed after we have the information of the task force, then we will adapt that. And this will be probably within the next, not within the next 2 years, but thereafter. And what is good in that as well, Ruth, is that we start educating. Yeah, many do not still educate. And if we are in the process of educating, then and participation, engagement of patients and things like that, then it's much easier to add on that.
Yeah, I agree.
So maybe as a compromise, and again, I haven't seen this leaflet, so it's really not fair for me to say too much about it. But maybe as a compromise, Flick, you could add that a task force is being set, and you expect possible adaptations to this guidance within the next 2 weeks, 2 years, or something like that, so that people know that there's an update that an update is planned in the near future.
Yeah, great idea, Ruth. The other thing to consider is that this in itself, it might be an educational experience for people in lower middle income and even Western countries, makes them reflect actually on the content of the international consensus statement, which relates to everything. And, I'm sure Esther will remind me about persistent post-operative opioid use, setting expectations, recognizing that carers at home, there's a problem with, unintentional overdose and opioid-induced ventilator impairment, etc. So, yeah, Ruth, very happy to chat with you after the meeting, after you've read it. I can send you some hard copies if that's easier.
Well, thank you very much. And I think that all opinions are well said. And we will take all with us in our board meeting and make a decision about it. Okay? Next thing I would like to discuss with you is the idea that we were discussing yesterday, Felicia, Esther, and I, about the satellite meetings that we are hosting around the congresses. We have done so in ISP Amsterdam, as we told you before. We tried to do so on the AFIC in Budapest last year. And actually, our proposal was only to organize a physical satellite meeting at the ISP congresses and not at AFIC or other congresses, and to just to multiply our number of webinars in those years. What do you think about that? No opinions?
Jill's always got an opinion, so yes.
I have to say that someone who is finds my income has reduced in the last 6 months, that it's extortionately expensive to go to IASP, and this IASP was in Europe. I mean, to pay what amounts to £1,000 for fees, on top of what you're paying anyway to be a member of IASP, and then travel and accommodation, and Amsterdam is not one of the cheapest places in Europe, and what is. I think that you are just then providing acute pain SIG networking interaction or whatever for those rich people that can go. And if you're talking about lower income countries, etc., I think you've got to go internet. And in actual fact, I think the IAS before last, which I can't remember, I think I went to that one, but the one before that, I asked, were you going to be broadcasting it as a webinar? And that was when we had the technology to do it, and it wasn't. So I think we are just providing information for people who can afford it at the moment. And I think that's a big problem. And not only that, you're not gathering people's opinions that haven't got the money to go. And I think you've got to go internet.
So you're pleading then, if I understand you correctly, if you're pleading for only internet-based lectures then, and no physical meetings anymore?
I think you've just got to understand that you're only going to get certain people in a physical meeting, and that's people with the funds to go, especially if you're running it through something like IASP, where it is very expensive to go to the meeting. I mean, your average nurse has not got I mean, we can't even get people to pay a couple of £100 to come to a meeting nationally. But to pay £1,000 to go, you're just not going to get the involvement of people with those sorts of funds.
Yep,
So
understood.
unless you can run something that is pretty reasonable, somewhere where it doesn't cost a lot of money to go. I think Flick was going to run something,
Yeah.
but which, you know, was in a cheaper part of Europe that you didn't get the wherewithal from EFIC to do. But you've got to look at who you're attracting, and you are attracting people with enough money to go. And whereas it's much more you're providing it for a much more diverse group of people if you are providing it on the internet.
Yeah, sure. Understand.
Which brings me to my point, which is about just going forward for, let's say, next time we have a refresher course or a half-day event, could we actually, this is a question for Angela and perhaps for Esther to take back to council. Can SIG actually arrange for our refresher course to be recorded, and we would pay for this? So at least then we could have some editing and we could actually pop bite-sized chunks on our webpage, or, you know,
Exactly.
so possibly for member benefits. But I'm also thinking about next year, in the global year of, you know, lower middle income countries, just building on Jill's point, is that valuable resource. We could, you know, also work, Angelo, with EFIC and do the same for some of the content that Rianne and myself will be generating next year in Lyon, because, you know, I know that there's a cost associated with streaming, but actually recording is not prohibitively expensive. I record a lot of events myself. But Jill, I think that's a really valid point, is that we are educating those that have funds available to them. And I'm just bearing in mind all the time, actually, next year's, you know, theme. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Esther?
I totally agree, and would say that we so one addition is we were not able to record the SIG meeting on site in Amsterdam. This was not possible. Yeah, because this was, what I understood, very, very expensive if ISP had to provide that in addition. And this will probably not happen in the future as well. And at EFIC, as I understood, it's the same problem. So the in-person meeting will be in-person meetings. And I'm a little bit reluctant to say we do not have any in-person meetings anymore. So for the next year, it could be this compromise that we say, based on our previous experience last year and based on what you just said, Gillian, and everybody else, due to the ISP global year, we try webinars instead of an in-person SIG meeting. Yeah, so everybody can go to EFIC, and there will be probably lots of themes that are interesting. But for those not coming, we will produce webinars and not on-site meetings next year.
Yeah.
But for ISP 2026, I would highly recommend that we do an ISP satellite meeting again. And we have to apply. I don't know if you know that. This needs an application. I did it this year with what you have seen, heard today, and it went through. It's likely that it's not accepted. So it means that one SIG can have one meeting, but it still needs approval. And I would really go for that in 2026.
But with recording or not?
No,
Is
if
that
they
possible?
don't provide recording, then we don't do recordings. Yeah,
Okay.
because if this is, and what I understood is, it was not only expensive, you cannot do it. Yeah, if one do it and the other doesn't do it, it's not possible. Either the whole ISP meeting has this option or nothing. Yeah, so this will not happen. Yeah, I'm sure.
But we can also ask our speakers if they self-record
Yeah, sure.
their talk, of course.
Or
But
if we later do a similar one with most
exactly.
important topics to have a webinar on.
Yeah, so there are
Sure.
ways to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
I see some more hands. Ruth, I think you were first.
I just think, I mean, I totally agree with Jill. I think the webinars are allow a much larger number of people to take place or to participate. Face-to-face meetings are very, very nice, but if they're mostly for the rich people, then it's really not fair. And but maybe a combination of having 3 or 4 webinars a year, in addition to the face-to-face meetings, because those are not going to those will take place, and I think they're a source of revenue for ISP or EFIC, and so they don't really have a vested interest in not recording these. So having both is probably if we're talking about compromises, then this is a
Okay, thank you, Ruth. Gillian?
I was just going to say what Ruth said. I mean, there is no reason on this earth that IASP shouldn't record or shouldn't have a hybrid meeting. We have the technology to do it. It's because it's their vested interest to make sure that people turn up and pay to come for the meeting. You've got to, if you have the option of going hybrid, then a lot of people won't come, and then the stands don't get, or the companies don't feel like they've got, they're going to contribute to it. I mean, it's economics, it's understandable. But for the SIG, which is a very small meeting, and let's face it, there aren't many acute pain options in pain. A lot of it panders to chronic pain. I don't see any reason why you can't record it yourselves, because you have the money in your coffers. So, to get someone in with a single camera and record it, I don't see why you can't do that, number one. Or number two, I think as Rianne said very sensibly, get the speakers to record. But what you miss on that is the interaction, that being able to ask a question in real time and to see some of that communication going backwards and forwards. And I know EFIC love to record their chats beforehand, but you actually do miss, it lacks something when you haven't got someone talking live. But I think, given that it's an international organization, given that they want to get more take up from middle and low income countries, I would suggest that IASP needs to change their approach to this in terms of, of providing.
Gillian, can I give you a quick answer to that? There is a task force currently in ISP that works on reconciling congresses. So there is a work on that. What is not true is that it is easy and cheap as or the same amount of money you pay for congresses when it's recorded or not. It's more than 2 times higher if you record. So if you use recordings and all these technology. Yeah, we had this for EFIC, we had this for ISP, and if we would have done it, this would have increased not only the money for those seeing the recordings, it would have increased the money paid for those coming to the Congress, because the Congress would cost more than double as much as it would cost without that. This is reality. Yeah, and this, even the Flick, what's the name of the EFIC Academy? Yeah, this is super expensive. Yeah, this is super expensive. We should not say that everybody should do that, and then the money would be less because you only have to pay some money for having the recordings. Yeah?
So maybe they should change their offer. Maybe, I mean, it used to be that with IAS we met every 4 years, and then it went to every 2 years. So maybe every 4 years it's an in-person one, and every 2 years it's it's a properly done online one where you don't have loads of people talking.
Yeah, this is what the task force is currently approaching. It was in fact not all 4-1, it was all 3 years, and then they moved to 2 years because Congresses made the money for ISP. This is not anymore the case. So this will be all in this task force approached and then decided on.
Okay, thank you. Flick, do you want
I was just going to make a comment. I run a hybrid meeting. It is super expensive, the prescribing in pain. But there are requirements. You need 2 cameras. You need, highly specialist. You need AV technicians as well. It's about £3,000 just to have the 2 AV technicians and the setup, and that is somebody coming local. So I think it's a really good idea that there's a.
Oh, you're quiet.
Mute, Flick.
I managed to touch a key. I just said I think it's a really good idea that there's a task force exploring this, because we need to think about the member offer. What is the member offer? What are we offering SIG members who are paying their $20 per annum? What are we offering IS members if they don't attend Congress every year? They get Pain the Journal. They get everybody gets pain reports. So yeah, I think we need to reflect on that as well. But I think a really, really genuinely interesting discussion about the future.
So I'm running the conference next week, which is the Acute Pain Symposium, National Acute Pain Symposium in England next week. We pay £6,000 for our AV. It's a hybrid meeting. It's only one room, and I appreciate that it's only one room, but it might be that the offer has to be reduced in order to get more messages out there. That's all I'm saying. I'll shut up now. I'll get off my hobby horse.
No, Ginny, we totally understand your effort.
Yes.
And I think you are right in the way that we need to reach to more people than the 100 that can come to an in-person meeting. Still, the 110, we had not every meeting before COVID where the meetings were much cheaper. So I think we had so good success. I know it's a selection bias and all these things, and we will take care of this. And so conclusion to that would be more webinars. Next year, webinars only without meeting at EFIC. And for ISP, we plan on SIG meeting on site, but we will get best to do our best to bring all the content to the people not able to come. Is that kind of a compromise?
That's a very nice conclusion, I think. Okay. Looking at our time frames, I think that we almost discussed everything that we wanted to discuss in our agenda, but we would like to do also a call to the other members, maybe watching our recordings of this meeting, to come up with ideas and reach us with these ideas and maybe topics for webinars, a topic for in-person meetings, or maybe something that we should build a task force upon. And as Flick already mentioned before, we do need some extra board members. So if you would like to come up as a board member, you will be very welcome. The only thing that we noticed yesterday is how do people reach us? Because you can find all our credentials in the ISP Connect site, because we are members as well. Some may know us and they may know our email addresses, but for those who do not know us and our email addresses, I was just, for just a short moment, I would pop up our email addresses for the other members that would like to react. So I'm sharing my screen right now to come up with our addresses. And you can see them now, I hope, Do you please nod if you see them? Yeah. So we'll keep them just a short moment and then they will be gone for now. And we will be back. I just wanted to ask the members present here if there's anything that you would like to discuss in this meeting. Just come up with some ideas.
I'd really like Shania to do a webinar on her recent publication. Will you accept my kind invitation? I bet maybe Jonathan might chair since he's your supervisor.
I would be delighted to. Thank you for that invitation.
Excellent, excellent.
Great.
Thank you very much. No pressure at all, but yeah, that'd be great. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Absolutely.
And if there's anybody else that you'd like to consider maybe speaking alongside you, please, perhaps if you and Jonathan could map it out together and then just come back to us with a proposal, that'd be wonderful. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I just have a question. You mentioned the need for board members. Can you elaborate which roles were you thinking of?
Felicia, would you?
Yes, well, particularly
give
social
us?
media, because at the moment I run the Twitter account, and I try and post the odd thing on LinkedIn under the IASP LinkedIn page, which gets a lot of traffic, I have to say. And I just wonder whether anybody would like to take on any additional roles. I know that we have some of the other SIGs have a board as well as an elected committee. Now, we were all elected at an in-person meeting. Famously, all of our recent members, maybe for the last 15 years or so, were all nominated and seconded at in-person meetings. So that includes Pam McIntyre, Stefan Schurg, Esther Bogatsky-Zahn, and also Winfried Meissner, etc. And I missed out on going to Amsterdam, but if anybody would like to nominate themselves, please don't be shy and just email us and say, I'd really like to take on this role. And that could be anything from updating our website, because I was looking at our website today, the landing page, which is slightly out of date. And also it's a little bit difficult to navigate around the IS website unless you know what you're looking for. So I was looking for some of our recordings, which are hosted under the PRF, so the Pain Research Forum. Yeah, they're hosted there and it's not immediately obvious. So I'd be asking, would somebody be willing to take on perhaps website management and working with the IASP team to do that? And then perhaps some other social media ideas about, just whether that's reposting or just getting a little bit more interactive. So anything's welcome, but thank you very much for, I don't know, not leaving the meeting immediately or turning your camera off.
Well, I think that this has helped a lot because we already have 2 applications in the chat by Jonathan and by Shania. So I think, would you like to stay or in the meeting?
Yeah, no, we're very happy to stay and happy to help out. I do find social media is quite intense, and you've done an amazing job, Felicia, to do it yourself, because usually there's a whole team behind those.
She is amazing. She
Yeah.
is so amazing. Yeah, you cannot imagine. Yeah.
So we don't want to burn her out. We want to give her help.
Yeah.
I think that sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much indeed. I was too busy chatting to even notice the chat. So yeah, thank you very much.
So if we don't have any other items to discuss, I would like to end our AGM and stop the recording. Is that all right with you? Yeah, I see everybody nods. So let's do so.